Hi and Ben, welcome to my book corner, and we're at the end of 2023. May it long live in the past. So I thought we'd take a look at what I think, for me personally, are my top 10 reads of this year. This year I read 92 books in total, which is the most I've ever read in a year. My original target was 52, so blew past that one. And there's been some gems in there. So this is my top 10 list of what I've read this year. And starting at number 10, we have Camp Damascus by Chuck Tingle. This is Chuck Tingle's first full-length horror novel, and this tells the story of a gay conversion camp within an evangelical cult-like community, and the fact that they're using real demons as a form of scaring the gay away, for want of a better term. It's fast-paced, it's got lovable characters, there's some interesting twists and turns in here. This narrowly pushed out You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kalynn Bayron, but I absolutely adore this one, it's well worth a check out. At number 9, we have The Cat Proposed. This is one of my recent reads. I only read this back in December itself. Some beautiful artwork in there. This tells the story of an overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated young man who starts to have thoughts of suicide and self-harm and narrowly avoids going underneath a train, and is saved by Bakeniko, which is a type of Japanese yonkai. And it's a really, really sweet, wholesome story of this ancient cat spirit and this very, very nervous and jumpy and not believing in themselves young man falling in love together and learning to accept what each other can offer, even though neither of them in their own way think they do deserve it. Well worth a read, well worth a check out. Highly recommend. At number 8, we have some dark academia that I read all the way back in January. January was a really good month. And I don't have the physical book of this, but this is If We Were Villains. This is the story of a death within a prestigious stage school, and someone took the fall for the death, and this is them telling the story of what truly happened to the police officer that didn't really believe the case and what was told back in the day. Really, really cleverly done. If you're a fan of Shakespeare, you'll love this, because this is a group of people that really do love Shakespeare. They often speak in Shakespearean quotes throughout, and it really does give you the sense of almost a cult of personality and celebrity in many regards, because these are the pinnacle of the college. Really cleverly done, some interesting twists and turns, and some really good, well-worked characters in. Kingfisher is up next with Nettle and Bone. This has obviously won some awards this year already. This is a really interesting take on the idea of fairy tales and godmothers in particular. This is a basic story of a sort of the third daughter in line to their kingdom, and they've been pushed away for their own safety to keep them out of being part of an arranged marriage. However, when she finds out that her older sister is struggling in childbirth, especially after her eldest already died, hatches a plot to break them free. And this, more than anything else, this has some really creepy imagery in there, but it's the twist on the fairy tale and the idea of a godmother's gift not necessarily being a gift but an actual curse is really cleverly done. This is an outstanding little book that deserves all the praise that it's got. Next up, we have a Pratchett book. I was kind of hoping Raising Steam would be in there, but unfortunately not. But still, to this day, my favourite Pratchett book, and it's a book that I reread earlier in the year, is Reaper Man. This is the story of the death of the Discworld, being put out to retirement to live out his days before he gets reaped, basically, by the new god of death. And you've got the interesting thing of, first of all, Death trying to learn to be a person and beginning to value his own life, which is something that he's never had to do before. And you get some interesting world building going on about the idea of belief and how important it is and how it manifests, because with there being no death around, strange things start to happen. and there's some really cool imagery in here. It's a good look at the character of Death himself and the character growth that he has, and it's just absolutely outstanding. Well recommended. This, as I've already said, is arguably my favourite of all the Pratchett books. At number 5, we have a book that I didn't do a full review on, and that is The Cat Who Saved Books. So this is by Sôsuke Natsukawa, and this is an interesting look at, first of all, the love of books. This is very much a book for book lovers, but it's an interesting look at how you deal with grief. It's the story of Rintaro, who been brought up by his granddad, who owned this little bookshop, and his granddad has passed away and he's become very insular. And this magical cat keeps coming through the wall, telling him that he needs his help to save the books from these evil people. Really quotable. There's so many golden quotes in here. And it's an interesting take on the journey of mourning and grief, especially when something so important to you is lost, and how you need something or someone to ground you, even if you don't necessarily want that. Really heartfelt book. Actually made me a bit sad, to be honest. Number 4 then, and we have Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Sher. I absolutely love this book. This is so wholesome. This book makes you really, really root for the two main characters, which are Dylan Tang and Theo Summers. So Dylan works out of his family's struggling restaurant, and then you have Theo, who is very much wealthy, son of massive business mogul. And you have people who try and stop them getting together because some people think Dylan's a gold digger and not good enough, so on and so forth. And they go through various different things. Obviously, as well, it's not particularly well known that Theo is gay either. So you have a really charming, sweet story here of two characters who just feel like they should be together. It does have the trope of falling almost instantly in love, which I know can be a problem for some people, but this is just so sweet and so wholesome, and really, really, really hit me emotionally at the time that I read it. Number 3 then, a book that I've been putting off reading and I really wish I hadn't. 5th Season by N.K. Jemisin. So this is the best fantasy book, I would say, that I have read this year. It's got some interesting themes around environmental disasters, whether that's man-made or natural. Some interesting way that magic works as well is told from the point of view of 3 primary characters at different stages of their life and different stages of the story. And it has a good, strong supporting cast of characters as well, with a really interesting wrap up towards the end to wrap the 3 characters together. Highly recommend it. I'm looking forward to reading The Obelisk Gate, which is on my shelf over there. Can't wait to get to that. But if you like some pretty dark fantasy, but with a bit of a twist, highly recommend this one. It's well worth the read. The top 2 were really, really close for me. But I have decided that number 2 is going to be Hell Followed With Us by Andrew Joseph White. This was one of my November reads for Trans Awareness Week, and this made me so angry. This is the story of Benji, who is a young trans man who has basically been told that he's a girl whether he likes it or not by the church where he lives. In a post-apocalyptic world, this church has caused the apocalypse, so to speak. And this is a story of Benji finding a community where he can belong and be who he is, while he's fighting the fact that he is literally a weapon of mass destruction designed by the church to kill all the unbelievers. It's very, very dark. It's not for everybody, but I think this is an amazing book, and I can't wait to read Spirit Bares Its Teeth by the same author. So what comes in at number 1? Another January book. This has been top of my list all year. A couple of books came close to pushing it off, but not quite. The Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. This is a Central American myth-inspired story about demigods competing in a Hunger Games-like scenario to win the right to be sacrificed to power the Sunstones that basically keep the evil gods at bay. And you have amazing world building. Everything is so colourful. There's such an amazing focus on the world that's going on. You have really lovable characters. You have some interesting little romance bits in there as well. You have betrayals. This has it all. Book 2, which I believe is called Celestial Monsters, will be out in September next year. I cannot wait for that one. I've already got it pre-ordered. But if you're into a YA Hunger Games style book with a trans main character with a bit of a Latin flair, that is a book for you to check out. Just want to shout out a couple of other books just to check out that narrowly missed out on the top 10. Heartstopper, first of all, everyone's heard of it. Got the Netflix series. I read the first volume this year. Really, really sweet. Interested in seeing where that goes. If you've not checked it out already, please do. The Deep by Nick Cutter, a bit of a controversial one, this one. I didn't like The Troop. This is a lot more focused in many regards. It's got some really, really strong body horror, but not too much of it. Real claustrophobic feel in its setting as well, and a bit of a mystery box going on. So, highly recommend that one. All That's Left in the World. This is by Eric J. Brown. This is a love story of two boys who meet after the apocalypse and travel across the east coast of America, trying to find salvation and saviors in the world gone mad, and as they get to know each other and eventually fall for each other as well. Really, really sweet. Happy ending as well, which is always nice. Board Gay Werewolf by Tony Santorella. This, first of all, has an amazing cover. But this is a really interesting take on the idea of toxic masculinity and certain male influences, shall we say. You very much have an Andrew Tate figure here and the negative effect that they can have on young men who are in a bit of a difficult or desperate situation. Also werewolves, which is always good. You're Not Supposed to Die Tonight by Kalynn Bayron. If you like the Scream movies, you'll probably like this. It's very much a slasher horror. Some clever twists in here. First half is a bit slow to get going, but then it accelerates away in the back half. But overall, if you're new to horror, this is a good place to start. And finally, a bit of a TikTok darling, this one, but The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Doesn't have a particularly enjoyable main character, shall we say, but the world building in here is absolutely stellar. There's some interesting bits and bobs around the enemies to lovers trope. This isn't exactly what you would expect it to be. And the actual title of the book is really clever because whilst it refers to the Cruel Prince, it may not necessarily refer to the prince that you think it does. But that's basically a wrap-up of my 2023 and some books that I think you should consider checking out. I'd love to know, however, what your top books of the last year have been. If you let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you all next time.